Welcome to the British Accent Podcast, where we explore how to make your English journey smarter, more human, and a whole lot more enjoyable. I'm Olivia.
And I'm Ethan. And today's episode is something every learner needs to hear at some point: how to learn English without burning out. Because let's face it, even motivation can run out when you're overwhelmed.
Exactly. We talk a lot about consistency, effort, and discipline in language learning, but not enough about rest, recovery, and sustainability. Learning a language is a long-term relationship, it's not a sprint.
And if you push too hard too fast, you might make progress for a while, but then crash. That's burnout. You start dreading your practice. You feel guilty for skipping one day. Eventually, the joy gets sucked out of learning.
Let's be honest. Burnout often comes from unrealistic expectations. Like thinking you need to study 3 hours a day, or memorize 100 words a week. That's not progress, that's pressure.
So the big question is, how do we balance improvement with inner peace? How do we stay consistent without becoming exhausted or emotionally drained?
Let's start here. Shift your mindset from, I have to study, to I get to practice. Instead of treating English like a chore or exam, treat it like a daily conversation with your future self. One that you can actually enjoy.
Yes. And give yourself permission to make learning flexible. Some days might be 20 minutes of focused grammar study, other days might be just watching a movie in English or chatting casually online. It all counts.
Language learning isn't only about intensity, it's also about frequency. A little bit every day, done joyfully, is more powerful than one big, stressful cram session.
That's such a good point. Think of English like a plant. You don't flood it once a week, you water it gently, regularly. Even if it's just 5 minutes of exposure a day, it keeps the language alive in your mind.
Also, don't forget to rotate your learning styles. If grammar feels heavy today, do something creative tomorrow, like journaling, role-playing, or recording yourself speaking. This keeps things fresh and reduces the chance of fatigue.
And let's talk about breaks. Taking a break is not giving up. Rest is part of learning. Your brain needs that time to process and store what you've absorbed.
Burnout often happens when we ignore the signs: mental fatigue, loss of interest, anxiety around practice. So if you notice those signs, pause. Recharge. And then return with clarity.
Exactly. And your version of balance might look different from someone else's. That's okay. Some people love apps. Some prefer podcasts. Some need group classes, others thrive alone. Your journey is your own.
And that's what we're here to remind you: progress should feel meaningful, not miserable. If learning English is making you feel worse about yourself, it's time to adjust, not quit.
Coming up next, we'll talk about the power of setting minimum goals, and how creating soft habits can keep you moving forward, without draining your energy.
Stay with us. This conversation is just getting started.
So let's talk about those minimum goals. These are small, manageable tasks you can complete even on your lowest energy days. Things like, I'll read 1 paragraph in English, or I'll listen to 5 minutes of an English podcast.
Yes. Minimum goals help keep your momentum going, even when motivation is low. They take the pressure off, and the best part is, once you get started, you often end up doing more than you expected.
That's such a nice idea. Because if you keep associating English with stress, it becomes something your brain wants to avoid. But if you connect it with fun, play, laughter, and curiosity, that's when you'll keep coming back.
Another powerful mindset shift is to track your joy, not just your progress. Instead of asking, how much did I learn today, ask, what did I enjoy learning today? Or what made me smile in English today?
That's such a nice idea. Because if you keep associating English with stress, it becomes something your brain wants to avoid. But if you connect it with fun, play, laughter, and curiosity, that's when you'll keep coming back.
And it also builds emotional resilience. On the hard days, you'll remember that English isn't just about being perfect. It's about expression, connection, discovery, and even playfulness.
Let's also not forget the role of community. Whether it's online or offline, having a space to share your experiences makes a huge difference. You're not the only one feeling stuck, tired, or unmotivated sometimes.
Absolutely. Hearing others say, "I felt like giving up this week too, but I kept going," can be the exact kind of encouragement you need. It's not about comparison, it's about companionship.
And if you're listening to this episode right now, just know, we see you. We get it. And we want to remind you that you're already doing something amazing. You're learning a second language. That's not easy. It's powerful.
Powerful, and deeply personal. That's why we're so passionate about this topic. Because English isn't just grammar rules or exam scores. It's about who you're becoming through the process.
The calm, creative, confident person who's learning to express more, connect more, and believe more in themselves, day by day.
Alright, in our next part, we'll explore how to create a weekly English plan that includes rest days, creative breaks, and reflection time. Learning with balance is learning that lasts.
Stick around. You deserve to find peace and progress.
Let's get into the idea of building a weekly plan that actually supports your well-being, not one that burns you out by Wednesday. Start by asking yourself, what kind of learner am I? Do you prefer routines or variety? Do you work better in the morning or at night?
Yeah, that's key. Self-awareness helps you avoid the trap of copying someone else's study plan that doesn't suit your life. Maybe one person studies for 2 hours every night, but for you, 30 minutes every other day feels better and is more sustainable.
And don't forget to schedule rest on purpose. Don't just rest when you crash. Plan your downtime. Mark it on your calendar like an appointment. That might mean a full, no English, day, or just switching to something relaxing like watching an English comedy show.
That way, your brain gets the signal, this is part of the process, not a failure. And here's another tip, build in creative breaks. Instead of just repeating vocabulary drills, try writing a short poem in English. Or make a funny voice note telling a story.
Yes. Or describe your breakfast like you're a MasterChef contestant on a cooking show. Today I enjoyed a lightly toasted slice of bread paired with an exquisite spoonful of peanut butter. That kind of playful language use gives your brain a break while still learning.
That's the kind of stuff that makes learning yours. When English becomes a tool for self-expression, not just memorization, it transforms everything.
Another thing to include in your week, reflection time. Take 10 minutes on Sunday night or Monday morning to ask yourself, what did I enjoy last week? What felt too much? What would I like to change?
That small pause helps you course correct before things get overwhelming. It's like giving your learning journey a steering wheel instead of just drifting wherever.
And remember, consistency doesn't mean non-stop. It means intentional repetition. Doing something again and again, not because you have to, but because you've chosen to.
And the best learning often happens in those little, ordinary moments, while you're making tea, walking to the bus, or brushing your teeth and thinking in English for just 60 seconds.
Exactly. English doesn't have to be this heavy, serious thing. It can be a light thread you weave into your life, day by day, moment by moment.
Coming up next, we'll share some listener stories about how they are balancing English with busy schedules, plus, the creative tricks they use to stay peaceful and consistent.
Let's talk about energy. Learning a language isn't just about managing your time, it's about managing your energy. If your brain feels foggy and your motivation disappears, that's a signal, not a weakness. You might not need more discipline, you might need more sleep, water, or daylight.
Totally. And sometimes what we call laziness is actually just overload. You've been working hard at school, at your job, maybe even emotionally, and then you expect yourself to tackle grammar exercises like a robot. That's not fair to you.
Nope, and your brain isn't a machine. It's more like a garden. You can't force it to bloom with pressure. You have to give it the right conditions. Sunlight, patience, and care. That means making space for joy in your learning, not just pressure.
That's why mixing in lighter practice, like listening to music in English while you relax, can be just as valuable as doing textbook work. It keeps the language alive without overwhelming you.
And don't be afraid to change your approach if it's not working. Just because a method helped you last month doesn't mean it's right for this week. You're evolving. Your routine should too.
Right. It's not a failure to adapt. It's actually a sign of a smart learner. You're checking in with yourself, learning how your mind and energy flow, and making choices based on that.
I've noticed something interesting. When learners give themselves more permission to rest, they actually learn faster. Because when they return, they're refreshed and more curious, not dragging their feet.
And curiosity is the rocket fuel of language learning. If you're curious, you'll chase answers, explore new topics, and stay engaged without needing external motivation.
Exactly. And remember, progress isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet. It's the moment you understand a phrase without translating. The day you realize you didn't panic during a conversation. Or when you start thinking in English, even just for a few seconds.
Those small moments? That's where the transformation lives. Not in one big leap, but in hundreds of tiny shifts.
So if you're listening to this and you're feeling tired or guilty, or like you're not doing enough, pause. Breathe. You're doing more than you realize. And sometimes the most powerful step forward is simply rest.
That's something we don't say enough in the language learning community. Rest is progress. Just like muscles need recovery after a workout, your brain needs downtime to process everything it's taking in. That's not being lazy, that's being efficient.
Yes. And have you ever noticed how, after taking a break, things suddenly make more sense? You hear a word you've been struggling with, and it finally clicks. That's your brain doing its quiet work behind the scenes.
And speaking of behind the scenes, so much learning happens when you aren't studying. When you're just watching a movie, chatting with a friend, or even daydreaming in English. That low-pressure exposure is where confidence is born.
Confidence thrives in calm, not in chaos. When you treat yourself kindly, you learn with more openness, more curiosity, and fewer mental blocks. You stop fearing mistakes and start playing with the language.
Exactly. And that playfulness is powerful. It's how kids learn. They explore, mess up, laugh, try again. If we let go of that pressure to be perfect, we can rediscover how fun it is to learn something new.
Fun is underrated. When English feels like a source of joy instead of a test, you'll want to come back to it again and again. That's how long-term success is built, not on pushing yourself constantly, but on building a healthy relationship with the language.
And with yourself. Because how you treat yourself during this process, it matters. If you cheer yourself on when things go right, and offer patience when they don't, you'll go further than any grammar rule or vocabulary list ever could.
Honestly, learning English is almost like learning how to live better. You start to recognize your limits, your strengths, and what you truly need. It's not just self-improvement, it's self-understanding.
That's such an important point, self-understanding. Because the more you learn about English, the more you end up learning about you. What motivates you, what discourages you, what learning style suits you best, it's all part of the journey.
And when you start noticing your own patterns, like I lose focus when I study for too long, or I remember things better when I talk them out loud, you gain power. You're not just reacting anymore, you're designing your learning life.
Exactly. You move from random effort to intentional practice. You realize that you don't have to do what everyone else is doing. You don't have to copy someone else's routine, you can build your own that fits your rhythm, your energy, your goals.
And when you do that, burnout becomes much less likely. You're not constantly fighting yourself. You're not trying to force energy you don't have. You're working with your nature, not against it.
You start seeing English not as a race, but as a relationship. Something you return to with curiosity, even when you've had a bad day. You don't quit just because you hit a plateau, you breathe, you regroup, and you keep showing up in a way that's sustainable.
That's the magic word, sustainable. Anyone can cram for a few days, but true fluency comes from showing up again and again, even when the progress feels invisible. It's a long game. And the people who win that game are the ones who learn how to rest, not just how to grind.
Right. Rest is a form of commitment too. It says, I care about this enough to make it last. And honestly, there's no faster way to burn out than thinking you're behind all the time. You're not behind. You're exactly where you need to be for your own story.
And that story matters. Every small win, every hard day you got through, every sentence you managed to say in English even when your confidence was low, that's all part of something bigger. Something worth continuing.
So if you're listening to this and feeling a little worn out, just remember, you're not weak for needing rest. You're wise for noticing it. Burnout doesn't mean you're failing. It just means you're human. And learning a language is a human journey, not a machine process.
Absolutely. Give yourself permission to slow down. To breathe. To play. To laugh. To learn with love, not just pressure. Because when you take care of your mind, your English grows with you. Not in spite of you.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the British Accent Podcast. If you've ever felt stuck or burned out in your English journey, we hope this reminded you that progress doesn't always mean pushing harder. Sometimes it means pulling back, resetting, and then returning stronger.
Your journey is valid. Your pace is enough. And we're proud of every step you take. Until next time, keep learning, keep listening, and most of all, keep being kind to yourself. Bye for now.